Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful day because, hey, we have a wonderful show planned for you where we have an entire show dedicated to computer and technology news. And if that's not exciting enough, well, I don't know what is. But yeah, later on in the program, on top of that, we will, of course, be doing things such as giving away a prize for our largest tech contest live on the air. So if you entered that contest, then you are already entered to win. And hey, we could be naming you here shortly. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started here. So a couple of things before we get into news. Hey, computeramerica.com. That's probably one of the most important things that we can tell you about because it has everything that we do here at Computer America. We do reviews, we do interviews, we do just, a lot of different kinds of content. And if you want one place to find it all, computeramerica.com is going to be your best place. Also, if you want to enter that contest I mentioned earlier, then you should definitely check out our website because right there on the homepage, there's a very easy to use widget to enter. I don't know. I think you can enter up to I want to say about 8 times in 8 different ways. So yeah, check that out. And then the last thing is, of course, the live video stream, which you can check out at our website or at twitch.tv/Computer America. And you can join in the chat room, join in the conversation. And that's brought to you by OWC. So let's go ahead and just get started because we have a lot of different news stories. Usually we reserve news for when after a guest and we have a little bit of time to ourselves, but some scheduling conflicts came up, and so we have an entire show dedicated to it, which I think is just fine because over the past week or so we've had maybe 10 minutes here or there to do news, and hey, they've been piling up. We have some very interesting stories that you should definitely check out. So sit back, relax, and why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news brought to you by OWC. Here we go. All right, assuming that played just fine, not just for my ears, but at any rate, computer technology news. This is a show or a segment dedicated to everything and anything having to do with late breaking news. And some of these are a little bit older, maybe from a day or two ago, but I definitely wanted to squeeze them in there. And let's actually do 2 of these to kind of just let you guys know about this. And this has to do with the fact that, let's see, I had it here. All right, so 2 different companies, you've heard of them before. They're getting into the streaming business. So that same area that used to be dominated strictly by, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, maybe Apple TV if you really cared about it. Looks like and HBO, of course. Well, it's about to get a lot more kludgy. And, we can even talk about another one here. Let's throw this one in here as well. So let's start with this one, and we'll talk about just how messy streaming television is about to get. And we're starting with this one. I think it came out yesterday. That's DC. You know them. The DC Universe, Superman, Batman, what have you. They are bringing out their own streaming platform, and it's going to be starting at about $8 a month. So that's important because obviously whenever a new large entity such as this, kind of says, hey, we're going to be bringing out our own streaming service. That's important. So they're calling it DC Universe, of course. And again, from Engadget, Swapna Krishna, talking about how we've known for a while that DC Comics, home of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, was working on its own streaming service to house its TV shows and movies. Well, DC now has released more details on the service, and the DC Universe will be priced at $75 a year, so you can pay by the year, or about $8 a month. So, you actually save quite a bit of money, as $96 as opposed to $75, so you save about $20 if you pay for the year. But I guess the real question really isn't the price. The price, I think, is of course very comparable to what the market says a streaming service should cost, but it's going to be about content. So they said that it will arrive this fall, and those interested can pre-order a subscription. But they said that DC also released a trailer for Titans, which is a grittier, darker version of Teen Titans, great show, which will be exclusive to the service. And other content that has been newly confirmed for the service include Batman Beyond, yes, the 1999 version. So, if you were struggling to find a way to watch your Batman Beyond, this could be for you. Justice League, the animated series, Batman, the Brave and the Bold, and that's in addition to what's already been announced, including Batman, the animated series, and the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. So, all in all, a lot of this content has been available through, I know Netflix has had a lot of DC comic movies, television shows, things like that. A lot of this has been available through a cable subscription. They play it on different channels there. But to have it all centered in one place, I don't know. The article poses the question, and are there enough dedicated DC comic fans out there to support it? I feel like even the dedicated diehard DC comic fans, which I think are such a super minority, I think even they would find it a little, lackluster to go out and buy their own standalone DC subscription for, again, $8 a month. $8 is not a lot of money, when you look at a streaming service, but so far, just kind of what they've announced, it might just, $8 might just be a lot of money for what you're actually getting. So they said that even with the announced content, the pricing feels like a big ask. If the service came out with the bulk of DC's comic backlist, like Marvel Unlimited, it would be a better deal. But as the service stands now, is there enough content to justify yet another streaming service at $8 a month? So obviously, the author has the same reservations that I do. DC, they do have some amazing content, but I've always seen it as like an added value onto other services. I've never considered once being like, hey, this should be on its own. I would pay for this exclusively. All right. So, hey, this is going to be like a three-peat. So there's this one, and then there's the next one, which I think is in the same boat. It's, is there really room in the market for this type of competitor? So Walmart, you've heard of them. You buy your lettuce from them. You buy your socks from them. You buy your shoes from them. You buy your clothes from them. You buy your electronics from them. You buy your home repair supplies from them. It's kind of creepy how much you actually buy from them. So Walmart. Well, reportedly, and this is one of their brands that they have in store, Vudu. They have plans to launch a Netflix competitor under Vudu brand later this year. So again, big because Walmart is a big company. What they do matters in the overall scheme of a marketplace. But the question is, everyone wants to take on Netflix. Everyone wants to take down Netflix, and so far, no one. So let's see what Walmart has to offer to try to get down, to try to get Netflix back down. So Walmart is gearing up to compete with Amazon, Hulu, and Netflix in the streaming video space with an offering of its own branded under the name Vudu. So the service would be similar to other streaming services by blending a mix of licensed content with original video, and Variety reports that it may cost around $8 a month. And with news of Walmart video on demand ambitions was first reported earlier this week. So here's the thing though, having original content, that's important. That's so supremely important that when Netflix says that they are going to throw, $7 or $8 billion behind original content, that put them far in the lead for original content. And you can license it all you want. I mean, licensed content sure is going to bring in people, but at the same time, licenses end, contracts come to an end, and if you don't have your own shows that are, kind of what justify people to stick around, then you're only going to last as long as other people dictate you are worth it. If you license, and Netflix is finding this out the hard way, if you license all of your content from Fox, from Disney, from from Time Warner, I think all those are the same people now. If you license your content from other people, then you are, again, only allowed to stay around as long as other people say that you are allowed to. So the original content has to be the focus, and the original content has to be good. You can't just say, hey, we have 1,000 shows when those are 1,000 bargain bin reality or animated shows that have no substance to them. So it's not clear how Vudu plans to differentiate itself from existing companies, many of which have shifted resources towards original content productions as big rights holders like Disney, ESPN, and others have begun launching streaming services of their own. And yes, our next story that we're going to talk about is the fact that Disney is releasing more information about its streaming service. So far, we've talked about DC and the whole DC Universe streaming service and how they have some original content, but they don't have enough to really justify their own streaming service, or at least that's the feeling among people who have heard about this. Walmart wants to release their own. They are not a content provider. Walmart does not make their own shows, but that's about to change. So obviously, what Walmart does is that they sell the hardware that you watch all these things on. They sell you the gaming system that you watch Hulu from. They sell you the TV that you watch Netflix on. They sell you the computer that you tune into HBO. They sell you the stuff that you watch it on. If they can kind of tie that into a Vudu brand, who the heck knows? So at the moment, Vudu acts more like an iTunes and Amazon Video competitor in the movie rental market, offering around 150,000 titles to rent or buy, with a much more limited selection available as free as part of their Movies on Us service. Like this idea of like a Movies on Us, we still have cable here, not going to name the provider, but they do something similar, and I can count on one hand, and if you're watching the video portion, the finger's one. I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've actually watched something kind of for free on demand. It's just not a convenient way because you have to download it, you have to wait for it. You really don't kind of stream it. It's not really an enjoyable function of the service. And I can't imagine that Vudu has anything better than the cable provider I'm kind of thinking about. So Walmart purchased the service back in 2010, and while it has since moved away from developing its own set-top boxes, Vudu is a more well-known name in the smart TV market. Like I said, Walmart provides you the hardware. Can they actually provide you the content? That's still up in the air. So they said that they do have relationships with large Hollywood studios and television networks, and so it's feasible that the company could use those relationships to cut deals. And more than anything, it seems clear that Walmart wants to compete with Amazon in its Prime subscription service, which grants more than 100 million Amazon customers a substantial streaming library as part of the $120 subscription service. So I think that's more of it. Obviously the title had you believe that Walmart wants to compete with Netflix. I think it's more Walmart wants to compete with Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime does give you the ability to check out a number of free and rentals and original content. And I guess Walmart is looking at Amazon and saying, hey, if they're doing it, we have to do it. So, yep, be on the lookout for that. And again, they want to charge about $8 a month as well. That seems to be about the baseline, for probably not high definition, not on multiple devices, not a couple of other perks you get with higher paid subscription services. All of these are coming out at $8 a month, and we can count. Let's see, HBO, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Vudu, now DC. And HBO. I mean, we're already up to 8, 9 different streaming services, all at $8 a month. That's getting up to more than a subscription, or more than a cable subscription. And yeah, I don't know. The market is about to get super, super saturated, which is what brings us to our final story in this trio. And it has to do with Disney. So if you haven't been paying attention, I don't know where you've been, but there's been a huge online movement for the original Star Wars, or not the original, the prequel trilogy, Star Wars Episode 1 through 3. I think mostly sarcastic, but who can tell at this point anymore? On top of that, they have a lot of love for Clone Wars. The Clone Wars by Star Wars was an animated show, actually surprisingly good, especially for something aimed at kids. Surprisingly dark, great writing, blah, blah, blah. It was canceled. Well, looks like Disney has seen the online resurgence of the love for, not just the prequel Star Wars movies where this kind of takes place, but also the Clone Wars itself. And they've decided to kind of throw a bone to an online community. And they are bringing back the Clone Wars. Yay! Hey, that's something. But here's the catch. It will only be available through Disney's streaming service. That's the kicker. So this is why it kind of ties in with the other streaming service stories, is because Disney is starting to flex its muscle in saying, hey, we'll provide you shows that you like because we have the rights to them. Star Wars as an entire franchise belongs to Disney. And if you want this, hey, be on the lookout for our streaming service that we're going to launch here shortly. So they said that it will, the relaunch of the Star Wars Clone Wars will be 12 additional episodes via Disney's direct-to-consumer streaming service, which is expected to launch sometime in the next year. And when the service was first announced, Disney CEO Bob Iger noted that it would launch with new stories from the Star Wars universe, including new live-action Star Wars show. And so again, this article that I pulled here mainly focuses on, the new Clone Wars trailer, but I will say the bigger part of this is that Disney is starting to hype its exclusives for its streaming service. And while the other two, again, Walmart and DC, and we were saying, can they really compete in this market? When it comes to Fox and Disney, because again, Disney is now, the only company in the running to purchase Fox content. Well, I think that no one can compete with a Disney streaming service. Netflix surely can't. Amazon, heck no. Hulu, maybe if they got rid of the ads. But Fox is going to be probably the new number one, with Netflix and everyone else struggling for number two. Or even Netflix number two and everyone else struggling for number three. Because Fox is going to be, Disney is just going to be such a huge streaming service that, I would not want to, be in Netflix's shoes, because, them having that identity as the number one streaming service and knowing that Disney is right on the horizon. Someone in the chat room says it's a trap. Yes, much like General Akbar. Yeah, Netflix, it's a trap. They're lulling you into a false sense of security by letting you be number one for so long that when they finally do come out, Netflix is, you can quote me on this, going to be number two when it comes to streaming. So, of course, there are things that can change. These can include the fact if, let's say if Disney knows their value, what if they come out with a streaming service that starts at $20? That might be a big enough deterrent that keeps Netflix in place, or any number of things. But safe to say, yeah, it's let's just say that's all the streaming news for today. So DC, Walmart, Disney, all coming out with streaming services on top of what you already have to offer. It's getting convoluted. So, all right, there's that one. Let's go ahead and talk about. Let's talk about a compromised technical marvel and then a true technical marvel. So I like this one just for the fact that, hey, we all know Roomba. Roomba is kind of one of the first ones that put a robot in our home. They were one of the first ones to kind of say, hey, you can have robots and they're going to be stupid because they're going to bump into everything in your home. But hey, it's a robot. Well, turns out that some of those knockoff Roombas could potentially be surveilling. And, this is the case with a lot of knockoffs. They, we've seen them from the likes of like smart TVs and other devices that aren't instantly recognizable as name brand. Well, they could be doing things that you don't want, either through laziness or through just generally being corrupt themselves. So that's why we have this story. This one from a day or two ago. And they're talking about a vacuum vulnerability could mean your Roomba knockoff is hoovering up surveillance. So hoovering, of course, sucking. So, yeah. Anywho, yet again, we are reminded that the mild conveniences of the smart home are all well and good right up until someone decides to turn one of those Wi-Fi connected devices you invited into your home against you. And hey, when you look at a smart home, everything from lighting to smart appliances to your Roomba to, security cameras, lots and lots of things. There's a lot of entry points into a home Wi-Fi network nowadays if you truly go all in on a smart home. So, two researchers with the enterprise security company Positive Technologies discovered vulnerabilities expecting the Dongguan Dicky 360. So, obviously you might not have heard of that one, but I'm sure if you do a knockoff Roomba search, it would be one of the more popular brands. That's something that obviously Dongguan, China does very well, is that they take a technology, they rip it off, and they mass produce it much more cheaply than, let's say, something like a Roomba. So they said that it has shared details of the security flaw. So the vacuum cleaners manufactured by a Chinese smart home manufacturer Dicky are equipped with Wi-Fi and a 360-degree camera for a mode known as dynamic monitoring. So I think people were justifiably concerned about the Roomba when it was just, that big bumpy thing and maybe some infrared to, kind of not hit people. People were concerned about those basic kinds of deals. But then now that this one has installed a camera, that's either very, very lazy programming, or that is incredibly irresponsible manufacturing to put a camera on these kinds of things in people's homes. So, anywho, they said that the camera was meant to turn the vacuum cleaner. I can't keep calling it the Roomba knockoff. Calling it the smart vacuum cleaner a home surveillance device as well. Well, they said that the camera is probably what you need to be worried about, because if it's a home surveillance device, well, I guess whoever has access to it is now surveilling you. So the remote code vulnerability can give an attacker who obtains the device's MAC address system admin privileges. And according to the report, the vulnerability is contained within the request set Wi-Fi password function, and exploiting it requires authentication, though a default username and password combo is common. And by the way, if you wanted to know, the default for this thing, admin is the username. And the password is not quite password, but it's 888888. And I say that knowing full well that if someone out there is using one of these devices and they suddenly hear their username and password live on the radio, that's, hey, maybe they'll be shamed into going home and changing it from such an absurdly weak combination. So, the researchers suspect that the vulnerability in the Dongguan Dickey 360 robot vacuum model might affect other products sharing the video module. So, yeah, they're saying that that the Dickey also manufactures vacuums sold under other brands, and that researchers suspect that those devices will be affected by the vulnerability as well. And you know, it's problems such as these. Again, something China does very, very well is that they'll take a device and then they'll mass produce it to death, and then they'll flood the market. We saw this with Wi-Fi cameras. We saw this with home security cameras. And that's why we had these instances of botnets that were 1 billion devices strong. And it's exactly this. One company makes 1 billion different cameras, sells it to a couple dozen different manufacturers, and suddenly the same billion devices have the same vulnerability that are under a dozen different brand names. It's a real problem. So they know that a second vulnerability also affected the vacuum model, though it requires physical access through the SD card slot to compromise the machine. So obviously, if you have physical access to the device, hey, getting into it, not that hard either. And yeah, someone in the chat room asked, where's the camera? Wouldn't they just be filming the dog? And let's see, if I'm looking at this device correctly, I'm betting the camera is somewhere embedded in the front of the device, probably in this little curve right here. So, but if it's if they're marketing it as a home surveillance device, it's going to obviously be kind of pointed up. So yes, the dog might get in there, and yes, you might get a very moony view of your dog, but at the same time, it's also going to be able to monitor really everything in the house. So yeah, be careful with that. So they said that since the vacuum has Wi-Fi, a webcam with night vision, and smartphone controlled navigation, an attacker could secretly spy on the owner and even use the vacuum as a microphone on wheels for maximum surveillance potential. So if you're laying in bed, and picture like a typical horror movie kind of deal, you're laying in bed, middle of the night, you wake up, your eyes open, and from across the room, you see a blinking red light, and then slowly you hear the whir of your vacuum cleaner slowly back out of the room, back around the corner. Yeah, your vacuum cleaner might have just been spying on you. So, yeah, be careful when you use these knockoff devices, because security is not a priority for these off-brand devices. So they said, obviously you can be spied, and then that's about the worst case scenario for the owner. The not worst case scenario, of course, has to do with the fact that it can be used in DDoS attacks. It can be used in compromise, and hey, all these devices can then be used to assault a target. Using distributed denial of service. So, anywho, there you go. If you have one of these, be careful. And I'm hoping that there's a patch for it. So far, the security firm just kind of points it out. I don't know if, well, heck, now that we know that this is a possibility, if you feel the need, and if you feel, wow, music that quick. So if you feel the need, put tape over your camera on your Roomba device. So there you go. Yeah, so everyone, music means we'll be right back. More Computer America, more computer and technology news. Right after this, everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour, and we're doing computer technology news. Actually, let me see if I can do this real quick. So, all week I pastor you, or I'm not allowed to say the word pastor. I inform you politely that we did this thing called the Computer America giveaway, and that's brought to you by Logitech. And yeah, hey, we love giving away a prize, and hey, we are about to draw another one. So let's go ahead and let me actually edit something right here because this is of course ongoing. And yeah, let's see. So let's go ahead and save that. So hey, it's about time to give away a prize. So let's go ahead and get this this going. That's nice. I like that. Again, brought to you by Logitech, giving away the Triathlon M720 mouse, and this week's winner that we're drawing right now is the one, the only. I like that. So this week's winner is, and hopefully I get this right, Jace Amadas. Jace Amadas listens to us in Pittsburgh, Kansas, USA. KS, that's probably Kansas, right? Pittsburgh. And again, so let's see. Jace Amadas, if you're listening to us, thank you so much for checking us out here on Computer America. And all they had to do was follow Computer America on twitch.tv. So, hey, a shout out to our video portion. And we're going to get in touch with Jace, and we'll put them in contact with Logitech, get that all sorted out, and their prize should be off here shortly. But in the meantime, everyone, if you want to be next week's Jace, then hey, tune into Computer America, enter our social media contest, and hey, more giveaways here in the near future. So everyone, thank you for entering, and thank you so much for for supporting Computer America, no matter which way you do it. So, all right. There's our weekly winner. Let's go ahead and continue on with computer and technology news. Again, still brought to you by OWC, and we have a number of stories. So that was a technology fail that we just talked about. Let's talk about a technology win. So micro SD cards, you probably have used them before. Things for like phones, if you don't run Apple, or cameras, or laptops, or just any other device. And having that extra memory is great. But sometimes you just don't have enough of it, and you're swapping between different micro SDs every now and again. Well, that's where this one comes in, and yeah, it's pretty shocking what they can do with an SSD flash chip. So Toshiba's flash chips could boost SSD capacity by over 500%. So 5 times. And hopefully, and this is probably something, strictly in the lab, but it shows the end possibility for the technology. And we saw this a little while ago with the standards people when it came to, I think they were talking about SSDs. And they essentially gave them clearance to go all the way up to, so many terabytes. I guess terabyte is now the new name of the game. Because, as we were talking, way back in the day, kilobytes was exciting, and then megabytes were exciting when something came with, came with a 1 megabyte storage device. It was exciting. And then gigabytes came along, and can you believe an entire gigabyte? Oh my God, you can't even use that much storage. And then all of a sudden you have terabytes worth of storage. Hey, we are getting to the point where we are starting to, really get terabytes to be our everyday unit, and anything below that is laughable. So Toshiba has started building prototype sample flash memory with the highest capacity yet, which is 1.33 terabits, or a 166 gigabyte per chip, saying that the 96-layer 3D NAND flash chips have 4 bits per cell, as compared to the current gen 3-bit tech, which allowed for the chips to only contain 32 gigabytes. And a typical package for flash storage containing 16 chips would have an astounding 266 terabytes of storage. So containing, let's see, capacity, opening up the new possibility for faster, higher density SSDs and memory cards. So these aren't just for, storing pictures. These are for actually computing inside devices. So Western Digital said it expects to start shipping consumer SanDisk products using the chips later this year, and that the firm still has a partnership with Toshiba despite the latest acquisition by Bain Capital, a consortium that includes Apple, Dell, Seagate, and Kingston. So Western Digital obviously at odds with Seagate and Kingston, also at odds to a lesser extent with Apple and Dell, but they're still doing business together. Lucky for Western Digital. So, despite the constantly improving NAND flash tech, prices for SSDs and memory cards have been rising until recently because of a shortage of chips. And they're reportedly falling again because of the lower demand for PCs, smartphones, and crypto mining equipment. And that's great news for consumers, so hopefully Toshiba's new higher capacity faster chips keep that trend going down. So, hey, if you wanted SSDs that could store even more, then, hey, you're in luck. Because I think having like a 1 terabyte SSD, while not totally impossible to do, was just about starting to get to the point where, having one kind of made fiscal sense. Having a smaller one, 250, 128, gigabytes SSD was still cheap, but if you can get one that is 3 or 4 terabytes, then hey, that's and you can get one for a good price, then that's definitely where you want to be. And when you start to have that much storage, sure, having a traditional magnetic hard drive is still good for storage, but a person could viably get away with only an SSD, which puts a lot of pressure on traditional hard drives for them to either increase storage to justify their existence or start to phase themselves out and us only running on SSDs, which is a good thing. So, love that story. Love it when technology marches forward ever further. All right, let's do this next one. I love a good revenge story. And so You may have heard he was very active on social media. I think that's why the tech companies really kind of picked up on his story. He was a troll. He was someone who took delight into making people mad. And yeah, Martin Shkreli, you've heard of him. He was the gentleman who who increased the price of a life-saving medication by 5,000%. That's right. So people who needed this medicine because of a very rare condition, he chose them to hike them by 5,000% through no outside market forces that we could kind of tell. And yeah, it turns out, and so the whole thing with Martin Shkreli, kind of happened. Not really going to rehash that one. He's in prison. He's been fined, whatever. So again, without any generic competitors, they abruptly raised its price from $13.50 to $750 per pill in the fall of 2015. And that's a problem because even after the backlash, they still didn't lower the price, or at least they didn't lower it by 5,000%. So they said that Martin Shkreli's former pharmaceutical company lost more than $1 million in the first quarter of 2018 amid waning sales of the drug made famous by Shkreli's price increase. And that's according to financial documents received recently reviewed by Stats. So they, and of course they said that Viera Pharmaceuticals, formerly known as Turing Pharmaceuticals, had brazenly maintained Shkreli's, despite his price hike of the drug Daraprim, which treats relatively rare parasitic infestations that often strike babies and HIV/AIDS patients. So obviously these are things that you do not want, and yeah, it's at $13.50 a pill, something very much you can't live without. At $750 though a pill, you start to question, not how am I going to afford this, but even if I could, is it worth selling my house over? So, anywho, they said that the former employees who spoke to Stat on the condition of being anonymous blamed the losses on the fact that Daraprim treats uncommon infections that are becoming less common, and as well as the backlash over the pricing scandal. So, the result is that the company had to lay off at least a handful of salespeople and lost about $1.2 million in the first quarter. So, yay for parasitic infections going down. That's great. Also, yay for companies not profiting off of just predatory pricing increases. So, though Viera has seen Shkreli's profit-driving plan to its end, Shkreli is long gone from the company, and Turing, meanwhile, changed its name and tried to distance itself from Shkreli without lowering Daraprim's price. And in light of the dwindling profits, the company is reportedly considering changing its name once again. And so hey, we'll see if another name change is the true fix to this whole thing, instead of actually addressing the concerns of the consumer. But there you go. So again, it's one of those stories that you kind of like, that you hate what happened, and you like to follow people kind of getting their comeuppance. So there you have it. All right, let's get a little bit more technical again. I like this one. This one's quick, short, simple. Recently, here at the household, we've had to put together a number of I don't know. I think the last thing we put together was this weird kind of chair, bookshelf, kind of flippy thing, where if you flip it over, it's a chair, and then you flip it over again, it turns into kind of a stepladder kind of deal for bookshelves. Very nicely designed, very, very well made, because I made it. And, I say I made it because, someone ordered it online and I put it together, even though the instruction sheet was not in English or even in Earthling, but still, when we tried to put it together for the first time, it was a library chair. That's what it was. So yeah, it's, we put that thing together, but when we first tried, we were missing, I think, like a certain type of screw, or we were missing a certain type of part from the packaging. And here's the problem with a lot of these prefabricated, I don't want to call them devices, but these prefabricated pieces of furniture, they are engineered to a T. I love it. It's human ingenuity at its best. But a lot of those parts are something that, a person could never really describe in their life. Just they are so complicated, they're so weird, they're so specific that they're like, hey, do you mean this? And it's like, no, that one's half an inch too long. That screw doesn't have enough twists and turns in it. It's the head isn't right. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with these very specific little parts. Well, enter Amazon's Part Finder, and that is the name of the service. Amazon's Part Finder helps you find those weird screws that you need, and it uses your phone's camera to identify the part you want more of. And if you have a home hardware part that you can't identify but need more of, you might find that the camera on Amazon's iPhone app is a bit more useful after a low-key recent update, saying that the new Part Finder tool uses computer vision to determine the type of screw, nut, bolt, or other fastener you may have and points to where you can buy more in its store, which is great because when you have to contact the manufacturer, we've even had situations where the manufacturer doesn't care so much that you say, hey, this one little part is broken. They'll send you an entire new doodad, like the entire package, just for that one little missing part. I mean, it's a pain point for everyone because, hey, in a lot of cases, you don't even want a second doodad. You just wanted that one little fastener. But at any point, they said that Amazon added the feature to its iOS app a couple of weeks back, and saying that it confirmed on TechCrunch but didn't announce Part Finder or even mention it in the App Store release notes. So there's no sign of an Android app release just yet. So to use the feature, you'll need to place the part on a white surface next to a penny, likely for scale, and the app will tell you how to line up the camera. That's the hard part. I haven't come across a penny in forever. I have more strange nuts, bolts, washers, doodads, widgets, fasteners. I have more weird things in my home than I do pennies. So that might be a problem. But they said that the app will tell you how to line up the camera, and once it has scanned the item, Amazon will display some results. The following screen will ask you for more details to narrow down the suggestion, including whether a screw has a flat or rounded head, as well as the type of screwdriver needed. So it's certainly a useful feature, especially if you're not much of a home hardware type and need some guidance on what part you need. So, of course, they can identify more than 100 types of fasteners and represent thousands, if not millions, of parts. So, yeah, if you've ever put anything together by, let's say, IKEA or just anything flat packed, then, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are tons of those little parts that if you just happen to have one less of, the whole project comes to a screeching halt. So, hey, it's a good thing to know about Amazon Part Finder, again, through the Amazon iPhone app. Nothing about it other than this article that I found, and I think it serves a pretty good purpose. So, there you have that. All right. I like this. I like this one. So, currently in the studio here, we are running 3 monitors to a computer, and we're hoping to bump that up. But for now, 3 monitors. It's hey, it's a pretty good setup. So that's where I found this article. I found it pretty darn cool. This is not the first one I've seen. This is probably not going to be the last one that I see, but it just shows that it's starting to become a thing. So the author writes about his point of view. This seems to be more of a review of this kind of product, but it's about a Samsung monitor. And if you're checking out the video portion, you can see it there. This thing's huge. So again, running a 3-monitor setup, this is designed to kind of take the place of all 3. And yeah, so while he said that I've been working with an ugly but functional lopsided 2-monitor setup for years. Again, this is the author typing this. And while it has served me well, I can't say the new generation ultra-wide monitors hasn't tempted me. But the truth is they just aren't wide enough, or rather they weren't. So that's why Samsung has just blown his mind with a monitor so wide it will serve as a ramp that you can trick off of in the summer. So obviously, skateboard ramp. So the dimensions, if you're counting, 3840 by 1200. Not quite 4K. Obviously, this is much, much wider than 4K. I think 4K is like 3840 by 2560 or something like that. Anywho, vertically, it's it's more than 1080p. It adds an extra 120 pixels vertically, but width-wise, it's about the width of 2 or 3 monitors. So they said actually it's a little less wide than a couple of monitors that they announced at CES, but those had 2 problems. First, they were 3840 by 1080, and of course he said that he just needed more vertical pixels than that. And second, that they were 49 inches wide, and saying that that is a big monitor. Not just big, but those pixels spread out that far, it's not going to look sharp at all. So yeah, they were 50-inch monitors that were, horizontal. But yeah, I guess what he's saying is that much real estate, you can't have something that low resolution. Even though it sounds like a lot, really isn't. So this one measures about 43 inches diagonally. And one of the downsides, he says, of his new monitor is that one of the downsides is that it can be a pain to separate workspaces, or say have a movie playing full screen on one half while you browse Etsy for vintage kettles on the other. But Samsung has picture-by-picture mode and some other useful features that help with this. So yeah, he says it costs about $900, and which is admittedly 2 or 3 times what he would normally pay for a monitor. Sorry, he's saying that he's more of a Dell Ultra Sharp kind of guy, but yeah, but my whole workflow could change when the thing goes on sale. So again, just look at this thing, 43 inches, corner to corner, huge, and just know that maybe when you shop for your next monitor, instead of thinking of like a 2 or 3 monitor setup, maybe a single massive monitor is something that you could potentially be working with, because they're impressive. They really are. So there's that one. And all right, I think we have time to cap it off with really probably the biggest story, I think, of the day. And this is going to carry us out. So here we go. Let's just get started. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Twitter. You've heard of them, right? Well, they're trying to unite to let you transfer data between apps more efficiently. And this has to do with the Data Transfer Project, is a new team up between tech giants, and it's founded by Facebook, Google, Twitter, Microsoft, and DTP. Today revealed its plan, or at least the DTP, which is the Data Transfer Project, revealed its plans for an open source data portability platform any online service can join. And while many companies already let you download your information, that's not very helpful if you can't easily upload and use it elsewhere. Whether you want to evacuate a social network you hate, back up your data somewhere different, or bring your digital identity along when you try a new app. So the DTP's tool isn't ready for use yet, but the group today laid out a white paper for how it will work. And this is news because all of these different services, they're going to have a lot of information about you. And as much as we hate the fact that we are giving away our information by the fistful, this at least lays out lays out the groundwork for, say, if you want to completely ditch Google, if you are done with Google, you're sick of Google, and you want to take everything and give it to Microsoft. because you have built up a lot of data about yourself, a lot of that does give you added functionality and ease of use as you use these services. Then this gives you the ability to transfer all of your data to Microsoft so that you still have all your photos, you still have all of your messages, you still have all of your, autofill features, things like that. Gives you the ability to transfer all of that without having to rebuild your digital identity from scratch and then delete it all from Google, which is now a thing. You can do that. And that lets you choose between which provider. It's no more sunk cost fallacy. It's not, hey, I've been using Google for so long, I could never make the switch. This is the beginning of that change, where if you want to get rid of Twitter, then you could transfer all of your data, all of your pictures from Twitter and ditch Twitter, but then you can pick up Facebook in the next breath. It's laying out that interplay that hopefully gives the consumer a bit more ability to migrate. So they said that creating an industry standard for data portability could force companies to compete on utility instead of being protected by data lock-in that traps users between the tough-to-switch services, as I was just saying. From porting playlists and music streaming services to health data from fitness trackers to our reams of photos and videos, the DTP could be a boon for startups. Incumbent tech giants maintain a huge advantage in popularizing new functionality because they can instantly interoperate with a user's existing data. Even if a social network startup builds a better locations sharing feature, personalized avatar, or payment system, it's hard to compete with the fact that Facebook, they would simply be a Facebook clone because they have to use Facebook's data and they have to interoperate with Facebook itself. If the DTP gains industry-wide momentum, then maybe these companies could start operating in good faith with one another. If someone truly does build a better platform, you wouldn't be strictly stuck with the fact that, Facebook is so big, I could never peel myself away from them. If you could still have everything that Facebook has on you, but have it in a more secure, private, central location, then hey, this gives you the opportunity to potentially make that happen. So I think that's huge news. We're going to hear more about it. It's going to be about adoption, but when, again, you start off with Google and Facebook, not to mention Twitter and Microsoft, that's one of the biggest hurdles to begin with, is getting all these players to, kind of act nicely. So hopefully this is a shift that, that was started with the, the data protections. I already forgot what they're called. The data protections that were enacted in the EU. Hopefully this is something along those lines that let people have a better control over their digital life. And hey, even if they're still the best services, even if Google and Facebook and Microsoft are still the best services, at least there's a way that you can separate yourself if you ever choose to do that. So, all right, I think that's just about it. The music should start playing. There it goes. Yeah, so there's the music, and that means that we're just flat out of time. And folks, everyone, I want to thank you so much for coming into Computer America, tuning in. I want to thank our winner. I already forgot their name, but don't worry, we have it written down, and we will be contacting them shortly after the program. Everyone, thank you for tuning into Computer America, and thank you for, joining us here for the hour. Tune in next week. Let's see if we can tease some of our guests that we should have lined up. Let's see, Monday, EnableSoft, Scott Schober. We have a company called Pango Technologies. They make, a very cool product. And of course, we're going to cap off the week with Nathan Evans. So, and I think we should be able to squeeze in some of our other correspondents, including Darius Derek-Shani, who we had to reschedule, and of course, our All Linux show should be coming up here in the next day or two, or the next week or two. So, folks, until next time, again, I should stop saying folks. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Check out the podcast if you missed any show this week, and check out the video portion. hey, if that's your fancy. Everyone, have a good weekend. Do something fun. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Folks.